तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। Fourth shloka, repeat after me. Paricchinna ivājñānāt तन्नाशे सति kevalaḥ svayaṃ prakāśate hyātmā meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva। So we saw meghāpāyeṃ'śumāniva. Just like today, when you go outside, it is again slightly drizzling, and the clouds are the only thing that we see. The sun is not seen. Now, how we interpret this piece of information or data is where the example or the beauty of that example lies in. Many of us, or all of us, in a very transactional way of outlook, we would say, the sun is not seen. Now, is that a fact? Yes, it is a fact. The sun is not seen. But then our conclusion that we draw out of that is where is the next statement which is to be analyzed. The sun is not seen, that is truth. But we say the clouds are covering the sun. When you look at the child and the parent and say to the parent, you look exactly like your son. There's nothing wrong in that statement, but the chronology that should be comparable is the other way around. The chronology should be that your child or son looks exactly like you. Why? Because the cause is first and then the effect. It cannot be the other way around. Now the sun is not covered by the clouds. Our vision is covered by the clouds. And it makes a world of difference, the way you perceive it. If the sun were to be covered with clouds, you and I can literally do nothing about it. But here in this atmospheric environment, in comparison to that sun, the clouds are very small and they are only covering my vision or eyesight. The moment those clouds pass away, my vision is corrected and I get to see the sun. The sun is eternal, the sun is ever present, ever illumining. Never a moment where that sun was not there. It's only that which was covering my vision got removed. Similarly, though in this example, to remove that cloud again is not in my hand. I have to depend upon or hope for the Pavana Devata, a little gentle breeze, एक छोटी सी झोंका, and the clouds pass away and the sun is back again with all his glory. But here, ajñāna covers our way of looking at it. Atma Chaitanya, that which is all pervasive, it is the very substratum of this entire creation. It is all pervasive, ever present, and it is the substratum. And that which is ever present, there was never a moment where it was not. The beauty is, how did my eyes get to see those clouds if there was no sun? If there was no light, how would I see those clouds to claim that the clouds are covering the sun? They were also illumined by that sun very much, isn't it? Similarly, that which is covering my vision to see my own true nature, isn't that also illumined by that very Atma Chaitanya? Now, if I were to say, there is a remote. If I were to say, what is on my hand? There is a remote and you are able to see it. Not only you are able to see it, you are able to know there is something on my hand. The knowing is understood. Is the knowing understood? Now what is on my hand? I'm glad I'm not talking to the kids. The kids would say, there is air, there is space, there are atoms. Just to create the trouble to the teacher. What is on my hand? With reference to the earlier, there is nothing on my hand. That nothingness is also perceived. It is also understood. I come to know that I understand that there is nothing. So that which is covering my nature is also discovered only in the presence of. It is only discovered in the presence of this Atma Chaitanya which is illumining it. Without that, there would not have been a possibility to recognize it. That which is trying to recognize the buddhi, where is it drawing its capacity to cognize anything, to process anything? Yesterday I told you the sequence. Chaitanya Tattva is all pervasive, ever present, so it is a given. As soon as there is a buddhi born, there is reflection of that conscious principle. Chaitanya Abhasa, reflected consciousness. Pratibimba Chaitanya, these are the two words that we use. Right? Now that Pratibimba Chaitanya also has equally similar qualities or equally similar nature just as the Chaitanya, and it is reflecting that into what? The subtlest of the instrument, because that alone has the capacity to reflect. See, we perceive chair, me, mic, everything because there is reflection. But then, when you stand in front of a mirror alone, the reflection is spashta, clear. Buddhi is the only surface on which that Chaitanya can reflect clearly with utmost all attributes of that Chaitanya Tattva. As soon as that reflection happens, there is an entity born. That is also a borrowed aspect from Chaitanya Tattva only. The Chaitanya Tattva is also called Atma, but it is called Paramatma Tattva. This which is reflecting is Chota Atma Tattva. There is an identity that is born, and that which we call as Ahankara. And then that gets induced into the next subtle layer, which is Manaha. Then to the organs of perception, then to the organs of action. Through the organs of perception, the world around is as though smeared by this reflected consciousness to cognize. Vritti Jnanam is born. That vritti comes back because it is cyclical in nature. It is in a loop format. And when that vritti jnana happens, that also is illumined. That also is illumined by the very reflected conscious principle. That is when I come to say, that which I understand, I know that I understand. That which I don't understand or grasp, that also I come to know that I am not understanding it. Who is it that is illumining that knowing, that understanding, that cognition? That is the Atma Chaitanya, without whose presence I cannot grasp anything. That is the very source. Just like the source is what is illumining the clouds as well. That is when I can cognize it. But as the wind is the dependable variable which will remove those clouds for me to see the sun, here it is my conscious principle, because of its very nature of illumining, does not have to depend on another variable for it to cognize. Here in this logic, I will not bring the Triputi, but the understanding is that the very conscious principle is of the nature of illumining. There is this beautiful analogy where Bhagavan Krishna is in the deluge waters, and there is a people leaf, unusually big, to accommodate that Krishna on that leaf, and he is floating on it. While floating, what is the mudra that he is expressing? His toe being sucked by himself. Very cute. Specifically, you see this in the Tanjore paintings, very beautifully depicted. What does that indicate? That I, the conscious principle, is being aware of my own self. Who is he? What is he sucking on? His own toe. Being aware of his own awareness. It does not require any other source of awareness, otherwise it is loop infinitum. It will go on. To illumine this, there has to be one more. To illumine that, there has to be one more. And there is no end to it. This Chaitanya alone is that which is illumining its own presence. At that moment, what happens? I think the mic is having morning sickness. If I turn it off, you'll all be able to hear. Like many of us, no, it's not the problem there. Like many of us feel awakened when there is a cup of hot coffee. Similarly, poor fellow has to need a battery. Therefore, he is cranky. You hear that cranking sound. You can all hear me, right? Yes. So the Chaitanya Tattva, which is illumining, does not require any other source of illumination. It alone is that which is illumining this vritti janya jnana and its understanding. The moment the vritti janya jnana is clarified and it is aware of itself, the vritti has done its job, it evaporates, it vanishes. When the buddhi which is carrying the vritti vanishes, without the vritti there is no buddhi. There is no reflected consciousness also in that experience. But now, abiding in that and functioning from that Atma Chaitanya, when I do come back into that Vyavahara, all the system is back again into action. The only thing now that which is not available in the one that is realized is there is no identity crisis. There is a midlife crisis. We need not highlight midlife alone as a crisis, because that also is an identity crisis. Right from the moment that we are born until we attain to moksha, it is nothing but identity crisis. Because when we say it is jīvatva, what is a jiva? The buddhi, the reflected consciousness in the buddhi, the mana, organ of perception, organ of action, and the vritti, all of this put together is called an entity, jiva. All of this functioning can happen without that jiva messing around. but there is that habitual error of that identity. How deep is that identity? How deep is that habitual identity? See, as Swamins, at least in Chinmaya Mission, we change our names twice. See, we have a brahmacharini. I knew her before I left Dallas with one name. Now she got Diksha, she has another name. Yesterday, by force of habitual error, I called her out with her older name. So somebody who was there said, "What did you call her?" "We don't know that." "What did you call her?" I said, "It is my habitual error." Because of that earlier pre-existing habit, inadvertently the old name was called, though the identity now is different. To remove this identity aspect or the habitual identity aspect is when even the realized sit to firmly abide in the actual identity which is of the nature of their own true self. Jnana and its realization does not come as a product produced by dhyana, but that which habitually stops that abidance is the habitual error. To remove that is where we are asked specifically to meditate upon. Without knowing all this system, if we sit down to meditate, what exactly are we meditating upon? Am I getting across? Fortunately or unfortunately, the word dhyana is used in multiple layers. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan says that the individual falls constantly and that ladder of fall is described. And what is the first word of that ladder of fall? Desire se pehle. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. By meditating upon. Meditation is the root cause of your problem. That is why you fall. There also we are meditating. The word used is dhyaya, meditation. But we are meditating upon the wrong things. That which is impermanent. Therefore there is a fall. Now, in order to meditate upon that which is permanent, we need to know the entire schematics so that one after the other, without missing a step on the ladder, we can gradually grow to abide in it. Not knowing this process, closing your eyes, what are you trying to meditate upon? धंधा बना दिया वो बात अलग है, एप्स बना दिए वो बात भी अलग है, पर किस चीज पे, किस विषय पे आपका अध्यास है? अध्यास तो तभी निकलेगा ना. Adhyasa, that which is a superimposition, can be removed only when you know what to meditate upon. And what is that step of gradual growth? Because even if you miss a step, see, when you learn mountaineering, you are specifically asked to slow down as you are climbing up, especially in the last leg of your climb. Why? The fall is greater. What is the difference between somebody who falls from first floor and 10th floor? Somebody who falls from the first floor, it is thap. Ah. When you fall from the 10th floor, ah, thap. उसके बाद no आवाज. So as you are growing into the subtler phases, one has to gradually grow, not have the eczema or the itch of. That is why Gurudev's work, one of his work is hasten but slowly. जल्दी करो पर आराम से करो. One has to know each step. You cannot try to jump across. So the entire schematics is laid out. Because whatever is the doing called the jivatva, it has to be undone, and it has to be undone in a systematic order. And there is no escape. So what should be the order? The entire field of karma first has to be realigned. Meaning every thought, word and deed. Pashyan, shrunvan, sprushan, jigran, ashnan, gachan, swapan, swashan, pralapan, visrajan, grinhan, unmishan, nimishan, napi. In whatever aspect of movement where there is action, the attitude behind it has to necessarily change. It is not an optional choice. That one of the above, you tick and you call yourself performing karma yoga. Because we also have this habit that when somebody does one act diligently with a servitude attitude, offering it to the higher altar, one act, we start calling, ये तो कर्म योगी है. ना वो कर्म करता है, ना आपको कर्म योग का डेफिनेशन मालूम है. It is that attitude that which pervades every action, every movement that happens through us to the external. Once that is ascertained, how do I know that that is ascertained, that the karma yoga attitude is fixed? Mind is calm, balanced, accessible. The fans can rotate at a faster pace. But before you all came, I have regulated it to this particular speed. Why? Because I have the access called the regulator. Do I have that access on my internal equipments? Even on that cell phone, we have the access to put it on mute. If we cannot access our accessibility even on a cell phone to mute it, what are we talking of our buddhi? But I am not making you an example. That is the condition for everybody here. That accessibility, is it there? That in a field of action when required, I can quickly jump that mind into that action without resistance. And when the job is done, I withdraw it consciously without resistance. Ours is like an ambassador car problem. पुराने गाड़ियां होते थे, sometimes they would not start. key, 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 key. So we would ask somebody, the gatekeeper, to push it, starting trouble. Luckily they had brakes, so stopping was not a problem. With us, that also is a problem. Once we get in, we do not know how to withdraw. So probably the better example would be Abhimanyu syndrome. सब जा तो सकते हैं पर वापस आना नहीं जानते. It's a dangerous problem. So through karma yoga, what is it that I have to ascertain? That my internal equipment is accessible, wherein both pravritti and nivritti is in my command. It is not given up to the moods as they swing. If when required, if that is what is the responsibility in front of me, I should be able to whip myself up into that field of action, gung-ho, complete 100%. And when done, without any simmering after impact or after effects, withdraw from it completely cleaned. Then that suitable mind equipment is brought to further sadhana, further fine-tuning through puja, japa and saguna sakara upasana. Then there is an amount of disidentification with the body is ascertained. That individual now is karma yoga. There is karma yoga attitude that is fixed. Through the puja, japa, upasana, the identification with the system is reduced to as much minimal as possible. That is the effect of sattvikata. Such mind then is brought to viveka, vairagya, samadhi, shatsampatti, mumukshutvam. That individual then gets to shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Are we seeing the chronological order? But for people to do all these steps, it's a lot of effort, lot of time involved. And we belong to the age called Kali, where things have to be mechanized, meaning automated, that I have to have a quick result. No patience. So somebody went to a barber shop, there was a huge line, and he said, "Oh God, give me patience, but give it to me right now." We are impatient even in that. So what seems to be easiest in all these process? Dhyan. Karna kuch nahi hai. You just woke up from the vertical, inconveniently sit in the horizontal, then inconveniently sit in the vertical, and continue the same that which you were doing in the horizontal. The axis has changed. From the y-axis you have moved to the x-axis and continue to nod in. Why? The unprepared mind, when it sits, because of lack of accessibility, there is no regulator on it. I do not have that discipline of control on it. So what happens? It has only two modes of functioning. Either it thinks and thinks and thinks, gets tired of thinking, then it will slip into the abyss called sleep. The moment there is a silent, beautiful environment, the only thing that it knows is to slip into sleep. When we come into that edge where there is only silence, we have never trained it. There is no accessibility to train it, to glide into meditation. Is the process also clear? I went through step by step. We will proceed further. Ajñānakaluṣaṃ jīvaṃ jñānābhyāsādvinirmalam kṛtvā jñānaṃ svayaṃ naśyet jñānaṃ katakareṇuvat. There is this definition of jiva. Whatever that as an individual we consider ourselves to be, the entire cumulative effect of our past. Adi Shankaracharya ji mercilessly crushes it down. And what does he call that jivatva as? A new definition, very revolutionary definition. Ajñānakaluṣaṃ jīvaṃ. It is all the play in ajñāna. Therefore, in the final act of renunciation, the entirety of this has to be given up. Why? It is all born and sustained in the blemish called kaluṣaṃ, blemish called ajñāna. Another beautiful point. In the field of jnana and ajñāna, there is no gradual growth. Whatever are the steps that I have described, they all fall under ajñāna only. He is a great sadhak, he has been doing his sadhana for 20 years, 30 years. पहुंचे हुए कहाँ? In the field of ajñāna only. One small slip, you are back to the square one. You should go to that point where it is a point of no return. Wherever there is a possibility of point of return, it is the field of ajñāna only. Therefore, we are so critical about even the saguna sakara upasana phala, that you disidentify from here and reach to whichever loka that you are, your upasya deva is. Even that is not permanent. You are right next to Bhagavan. Salokya, you have reached. Sarupya, Samipya. All this done, and yet it is not complete, because that is not a point of no return. Even from there, you can slip. Even as great as Indra can slip. All the story that begins from the Bhagavatam, what is the beginning point? Sanat Kumaras wanted to enter. Jaya Vijaya that were appointed did not know that they had diplomatic immunity. They come in and go out, as per their wish. Nobody can stop them, but they were stopped. Stopped because they forgot that they had that diplomatic immunity. Even a little bit of forgetfulness is considered as kalusha there. They did not give shapa because they were angry that they were stopped. The shapa was given unto them because you do not qualify to be there if there is even this bit of kalushatva. Kalushyam, if it is there even little bit, you belong somewhere else. I said, for eternity go into the bhuloka and serve to get out of it. Then Bhagavan Vishnu comes running. He says, they are my representatives. There was a outside of the court deal. An understanding that they came to. Not for several lives, let us reduce it to 3. And down they came as asuras and rakshasas. A little bit of kalusha. Back to the square one. भगवान के दरवाजे के सामने खड़े हैं. भगवान डेली looks at them, says good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Knows them by name. And yet that could not protect them from that fall. What we are intending to reach is that permanency which is called achyuta. Anything that which is to be reached other than the svayaṃ bodha, Atmabodha is chutivanta. Because it is born of ajñāna, sustained in ajñāna only. In jnana there is no duality. There is no two. If there is two to experience, there is the experiencer, the experienced, and the experience as a situation to go through, then it is limited. All this limitation is born out of ajñāna. Therefore, ajñāna is something that has to be worked upon. That is the big problem that is created by this ajñāna. Because up until now we have only heard ajñāna is the cause, ajñāna is the cause. But what is wrong in ajñāna? There are people that would ask this question. Isn't it that ignorance is bliss? No, ignorance is blisterful, not bliss. Ajñāna leads to the wrong identity, and in that wrong identity we keep searching for fulfillment and completeness and get attached to everything that which is impermanent. Constantly miserable is the result of any action that we have performed. Ma phaleshu kadachana. That which we are anticipating is never the result of action. There is this equation in our head that a firm conviction, that equation. Actions will yield happiness. The more I do, the more I am happy. But our own experience says we don't need Shastra which are there. Our own experiences reveal that none of the systems of karma have ever been able to yield that state of permanency, achyuta tattva, in our experience. Karma has failed, our own life is an example for it. And yet the conviction is, we constantly, even in our vocabulary, use, oh, I went there, I was so happy. Oh, I did this, I was so happy. There are moments of fleeting joy which we enjoy, which is not equivalent to happiness. Yes, there was joy. But that is not happiness. That is fleeting, we also know it. Why? As we are enjoying, we are already prepping for the next. Neer chutney idli is done, then we want masala dosa. Masala dosa is done, then we need vada. If vada is done, then coffee. Then coffee is done. I wish I could have continued, but there is no space. So I will wait for next meal. Already planning is happening while you are enjoying. It's not that you are not enjoying. The very momentum that is built in that field of karma is with a known fact that though I am enjoying, I am not complete. And that incompleteness drives me from one to the other. There is no full stop. It's only kama. Therefore, that is called kama. That where there is no calmness. This is the kalusha of ajñāna. Kabir Das ji puts it in simple language. He says, बड़े हुए तो क्या हुआ जैसे पेड़ खजूर, फल में नहीं देत छाए, फल लागे अति दूर. And the same concept Adi Shankaracharya ji sings. He says, Manaschenna lagnam ghuror rangripad me tatah kim tatah kim tatah kim tatah kim videsheshu manya swadesheshu dhanyah sadachara vritteshu matto nachanyah Manaschenna lagnam hare rangripad me. So what, so what, so what? Tatah kim, tatah kim, tatah kim. What is all of this? And a sense of accomplishment, and the ego identified that if that sense of accomplishment is not there, you feel depressed. If the sense of accomplishment is there, then you feel elated. And constantly swing from this to that. That is our entire Jiva Charitra. Born of ajñāna, from the platform of ajñāna, sustained by ajñāna, completeness cannot be guaranteed. Because ajñāna itself is on the platform of apurnatvam. A conglomerate of all ajñāna put together is jivatvam. And we take a special pride in displaying that jivatva as ahankara. And then the competition with the comparative notes. My ahankara better than your ahankara. To heck with it. What are we comparing and what are we competing in? We get so acclimatized to this, then we create situations of make-believe system. And then create standards in that make-believe system and judge everybody based on that make-believe system. And if somebody wants to swim the other way, see, to flow with the flow is effortless. But you are stuck in the same place. And if you have to flow against it, because flow with the flow, even the dead fish can float in the flow. But to flow the other way, you need courage. That is why the Upanishad says, Anybody pursuing this Atma Vidya, first and foremost they require is the courage to swim opposite. Undoing is not that easy. See, we get attached very easily. I am not saying that happened here, but an example. We come to the satsang. How much time do we spend in that satsang? 1 hour, 1.5 hours. As soon as we come into the satsang, because it is for 7 days, 8 days, we have our favorite spots. For that 1 hour, we have that favorite spot, and by mistake, some new person is sitting in your spot. I have seen this happen. I am not saying it has happened here. They will stand there. Sense of attachment for that 1 hour to that particular asana or seat or corner is so deep. ये मेरा spot है. How subtle it works. Am I getting across? Ajñānakaluṣaṃ jīvaṃ. How do we remove it? Ekaika marga, mokshaika sadhanam. Jñānābhyāsādvinirmalam. It is through this jnānābhyāsa alone that nirmalatva can be ascertained. Because the rest of the karma can bring us up to the sattvic, but sattvikata is the most difficult layer to break. Just like to clean a cloth you require soap, but just because it cleanses does not mean that the soap is to be retained on the cloth for its purity. Even that soap has to be rinsed out, washed out. But then having reached up to that sattvikata, the attachment is the highest in that sattvic state. I am not like anybody else. I wake up in the morning. तुम क्या बड़ा उखाड़ लिया भाई? I wake up early in the morning before the sun even rises. I do this. That is still in the field of crossing can happen only in that jnana where even that sattvic layer is finally broken, shattered, given up. That attachment is the most intense attachment. And to give up that intense attachment takes the intense effort. And that is a habitual error. So you may have heard Gurudev say, in the white heat of meditation, this final layer has to be burnt away to ashes. That habitual error has to be removed. Now that you know what to meditate upon, and it is not just a gimmick of sitting straight and closing the eyes and doing some other process, but it is reaching to that being. Jnana abhyasat vinirmalam bhavati. Mala is kalusha. Mala means dirt, blemish. Nirmala, without blemish. What is the word used here? Vinirmalam. To reach to that point where there is no return, that it does not have to be scared of getting back to mala again. Ajñānābhyāsādvinirmalam. And at that point of no return, you need not worry about पर वहां पे कैसे होता है? What is my anchor? You don't need any anchor. Anchors are required only in ajnana. When you think that you are a limited loci, you want a fix. That's why all addictions are called a fix. Now, some are addicted to coffee, some are addicted to food, some are addicted to sleep, some are addicted to intoxicants. All are addictions only. Habitual error. In that ajnana, we look down upon some habitual errors and feel great about some habitual errors. But it is an error. Therefore, here he is saying, kṛtvā jñānaṃ, in that jnana sthiti, when you reach to that true identification with my own self, svayaṃ naśyejjalaṃ. Having taken that far, the buddhi with that thought, because the statement given by the Guru is tattvamasi. Then as I process that tattvamasi, there are volumes written on tat, volumes written on tvam, volumes written on asi. Once that churning process is done, then I come to realize. Realization is not tattvamasi. Having churned that tattvamasi, the realization is aham asmi. Aham asmi kim? Aham brahmasmi. I am that supreme consciousness which is the substratum of everything. That conscious principle that I am. In that knowledge, in that wisdom alone, in that svanubhuti alone, the others or the entire world is also experience anubhuti. But it is not an objective anubhuti, this is a subjective anubhuti, therefore it is svanubhuti prakāśa. And how is that svanubhuti? Prakāśavanta. Illumining, and in that illumination, even this thought of aham brahmasmi naśyet. What remains is purnatvam. Jalam katakareṇuvat. Katakareṇu is like a seed, or a comparison for what we normally use is alum. You उसको क्या बोलते हैं? फिटकरी. क्या नाम है उसका? However dirty be the water, उसको fit कर दे, फिटकरी. You run that usually with a string tied in that water. All the sediments that are there floating lighter, they become heavier and then they settle down. Automatically it settles down once you run this. So the Tattvamasi Mahavakya is like a fitkar. See, the Maharashtrian last names usually indicate what they have done as a profession, right? Tendulkar, ye kar, wo kar, dhaman kar. What we need is not this different kara, we need fit kara. And the only thing that can do that fit kara is this jnana. Jnana of what? My own true nature. The sediment settle down, that which is already there, that purity, that exuberance of that purity starts enveloping everything. Now when I say enveloping everything, it is not to be understood that it is there in one spot or space and therefore it is now spreading. That is when I understand that it has always been enveloped. How? Just like a rasagulla with rasa both inside and outside. Antar bahischa tatsarvam. I find it amusingly easy when I use food examples. There's immediately a smile on people's face and the understanding is clear. It is there everywhere, and that I am is the experience. We'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.